In 2013, Henry Winkler sat down for a television interview and said something that stopped the room. The bike he rode on Happy Days, Fonzie's bike, the silver Triumph, the one parked outside the garage apartment, the one that made Arthur Fonzarelli the coolest man on American television, that bike, Winkler said, was the same motorcycle Steve McQueen used to jump the barbed wire fence in The Great Escape. Think about what that claim means. Two of the most iconic machines in screen history. The same bike. One jumped a fence in a World War II prison escape. The other made a greaser from Milwaukee into a cultural monument. Same machine. It's a perfect story. It's also not true. The bike McQueen, or rather his stunt double, rode in The Great Escape was a Triumph TR6 Trophy. The bikes built for Happy Days were TR5 Trophies. Different machines, different years, different configurations. They never shared so much as a bolt. But here's what Winkler got right, even if he got the detail wrong. Both bikes came from the same pair of hands, and those hands belonged to a man most people watching Happy Days in 1974 had never heard of, and most people watching it now still haven't. His name was Bud Ekins, and the story of Fonzie's Triumph is really his story. Happy Days premiered in January 1974. It was set in Milwaukee in the mid-1950s, built around the Cunningham family, and designed as a soft, nostalgic portrait of post-war American adolescence. Fonzie was not supposed to matter. Arthur Fonzarelli appeared in the pilot as a supporting character, a leather-jacketed high school dropout who lived above the Cunningham's garage, fixed engines for a living, and operated by a code of cool so complete it seemed to require no effort at all. The character was a background figure, a texture piece. The show was about Richie Cunningham. The audience disagreed. By the end of Season 1, Fonzie was pulling more viewer attention than any other character on the show. Gary Marshall saw what was happening and made the decision that would define the series. Starting with Season 2, Fonzie moved to the center. Henry Winkler was added to the main credits, and the motorcycle, until then a Harley-Davidson knucklehead bobber managed by a wrangler named Chris Haynes, became the visual anchor of everything the character represented. Then, Chris Haynes left the production. Without Haynes, there was no one on set capable of managing the Harley. The bike was heavy, mechanically demanding, and required a confident handler. Winkler, by his own repeated admission, was not a rider. He had struggled with the knucklehead from the beginning, attributing his difficulty with the clutch, brake, throttle coordination to his dyslexia. The bike was larger than he could comfortably manage. The production needed a solution. They called Bud Ekins. Bud Ekins operated out of a pair of dirt floor Quonset huts in North Hollywood. Several hundred motorcycles lived in there at any given time. Racers, street bikes, project machines, desert sleds, in various states of assembly and disrepair. Ekins had been racing competitively since the 1950s, accumulating 4 gold medals and a silver at the International 6 Days Trials across his career. He was one of the founders of organized desert racing in the United States. He appeared alongside Steve McQueen in Bruce Brown's 1971 documentary On Any Sunday, and when Hollywood needed motorcycles, for films, for television, for promotional work, Ekins was the man they called. He had done the Great Escape jump in 1962. McQueen wanted to perform it himself. The insurance company and the production said no. Ekins went over the fence instead, on a Triumph TR6 Trophy dressed to pass as a German military BMW. The jump lasted approximately 3 seconds on screen. It has been discussed for 60 years. When Happy Days called, Ekins went into his collection and pulled out what he thought the character should be riding. A young, broke, working-class kid in 1956 Milwaukee would not have been on a new machine. He would have been on something old, something second-hand, something he'd bought cheap and made his own. A late 1940s British scrambler fit that portrait exactly, especially a TR5 Trophy 500, the same model James Dean had ridden, the same Mark Marlon Brando's character, Johnny Strabler, made infamous in The Wild One 3 years before the show's fictional setting began. Ekins built 3 of them to matching specification. The modification list was short. Front fender deleted, Stock handlebars replaced with higher buckhorn bars, the style American riders had been adding to British bikes since the early 1950s. Fuel tank painted silver, seat modified, pea-shooter mufflers fitted in place of the originals. That was it. The changes were minimal because they didn't need to be anything else. The TR5 Trophy already looked the part. The 500cc all-alloy engine, the lean scrambler profile, the tuck-and-roll proportions. This was a motorcycle that communicated something before it moved. Ekins rented all three bikes to the production. He never sold them. They remained his property throughout the run. Henry Winkler rode Fonzie's Triumph exactly once for camera. It was the opening credit sequence. He was supposed to travel approximately 5 feet. What happened instead, the Triumph accelerated to something approaching 90 miles an hour, headed directly toward the director of photography, who had to throw himself clear. The Triumph slid under a sound truck. Production staff came running. They pulled the bike out first. It was rented. Winkler was unhurt. He announced on the spot that he would never ride again. He kept that promise for the duration of the series. Every subsequent scene of Fonzie on the motorcycle was a stationary shot, carefully framed, with stagehands pushing the bike in and out of position. Full riding sequences used stunt riders. Winkler sat on the machine, leaned on it, kicked it, touched it, and was moved around the set on it like cargo. None of that diminished what the bike did for the character. Through seasons 2 and 3, the Triumph became inseparable from Fonzie's identity. It appeared in the opening credits. It appeared in the garage. It appeared in the parking lot of Arnold's Drive-In as a permanent fixture of the landscape, the way certain objects in certain places simply declare themselves as belonging there. And in Season 3, Episode 2, the episode titled The Motorcycle, it got the speech that made the whole relationship explicit. Howard Cunningham, watching Fonzie grieve a damaged bike, said, "It's only a motorcycle." Fonzie's answer ran for nearly a full minute of airtime. He talked about being young, about trying everything to be cool, about nothing working, and then about the day this machine changed his life. He called it the reason for him to live. Henry Winkler, a man who was afraid of motorcycles, delivered that speech with complete conviction. That's the version of the story most people carry: the character's devotion, the actor's performance, the gap between the two, invisible on screen. When Winkler told that 2013 interviewer that his bike was McQueen's bike, he wasn't inventing a connection. He was reaching for one that genuinely existed and landing on the wrong detail. The true connection is Ekins himself, the man who performed the Great Escape jump, the man who built Fonzie's Triumph, the man whose hands touched both productions and whose name appeared in the credits of neither. Winkler said it was the same bike. It wasn't, but it was built by the same person who made that jump possible, using the same philosophy: find the right machine, change only what needs changing, and trust the motorcycle to do the rest. That's not nothing. That's actually more interesting than the myth. Happy Days ended in May 1984 after 11 seasons and 255 episodes. Bud Ekins retrieved all three Triumphs. He removed the custom bars, reinstalled the stock fenders, and returned each bike to something close to its original configuration. Whatever they had been for 10 years of television, they were motorcycles again now. No markings, no confirmed provenance documentation sent with them, just machines. 2 of them left a record at that point. No confirmed sale, no confirmed destruction, no confirmed location. They simply stop appearing in any documentation after 1984. Stolen, parted out, raced into the ground, sold anonymously at some point to someone who didn't know what they were, the trail ends. They are not confirmed destroyed, they are not confirmed surviving, they are gone in the way that most things go. Not dramatically, but completely. The third, the 1949 unit, Ekins eventually sold to a man named Marshall Ehlers. Marshall ran a motorcycle shop in Oakland, California called Mean Marshall's Motorcycles, a working shop. Tools on the walls, used parts on the shelves, machines in various states of repair spread across 70,000 square feet of floor. Ekins called, told Marshall to empty his bank account, and sold him a collection of bikes. He did not mention what one of them had been. Ehlers bought the TR5 for what it was, a rare square-barrel alloy-engined Triumph in decent condition, worth having on its mechanical merits alone. He put it on display in the shop. He didn't ride it, he didn't restore it, he didn't know there was anything to restore it to. Fonzie's jacket went into the Smithsonian Institution's permanent collection at the National Museum of American History. Fonzie's face appeared on lunchboxes, lighters, Halloween costumes, breakfast cereal boxes, and United States postage stamps. Henry Winkler became one of the most recognized actors in America. The bike sat in Oakland under a shoplight, unrecognized for the better part of a decade. In 2000, a Cycle World writer named Wendy F. Black tracked it down for the magazine's Lost and Found feature. She established the provenance. She confirmed what Marshall had been sitting on. Planet Hollywood called. They offered what Marshall described as absurd amounts of money. He said no. He kept saying no for 11 more years. In 2011, Marshall Ehlers finally consented to auction. The 1949 TR5 Trophy crossed the block at Bonham's Classic California sale at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. It sold for $87,500, still wearing, according to the auction house, its studio scars. It wasn't done moving. In 2018, it sold again at Julian's Auctions Hollywood Legends event in Las Vegas for $179,200. In December 2021, it crossed the block one more time at Bonham's Hollywood Cool auction and sold for $231,562, believed to be a world record price for a Triumph motorcycle sold at auction. The two that disappeared have not surfaced. The Triumph TR5 Trophy and its sibling, the TR6, represent a specific and well-supported corner of the vintage British motorcycle market. The 500cc all-alloy engine, particularly the square-barrel configuration found in the late 1940s and very early 1950s units, is prized among collectors for its engineering and its ISDT competition heritage. These are genuine off-road capable machines, not just period decoration. Current market for driver or unrestored examples runs approximately $8,000 to $18,000. Professionally restored examples in correct specification push $20,000 to $35,000. The specialist community supporting these bikes is strong on both sides of the Atlantic. Parts availability is real, not theoretical. If you want to replicate the Fonzie build specifically, the modification list is short enough to be encouraging. The bar swap, the silver tank, the fender delete, all of it is period correct and achievable with parts that exist and are findable. The result is a machine that looks exactly like what it is, a 1950s American custom built from a British scrambler by someone who knew what they were doing and didn't overthink it. If you want to go deeper into what these bikes actually cost to own and run, what to check at purchase, which configurations to prioritize, where the common problems hide, that conversation is already happening inside the community. Link is below. That's where the surface guidance ends and the real sourcing begins. For the build itself, keeping a vintage motorcycle looking the way it deserves to look starts with the basics. A proper wash kit matters more than most people admit. I use the Chemical Guy's Arsenal Builder Kit for everything in the garage, motorcycles included. Link in the pinned comment. If you want to experience the show that made this bike famous before you go looking for the real thing, Happy Days Seasons 1 through 6 are available on Amazon. That's the run that matters, the single-camera seasons and the early studio years where the Triumph is front and center. Link in the pinned comment. And if you want something for the shelf while you search for the real thing, Funko makes a Fonzie pop that's accurate enough to remind you what you're chasing. Link in the pinned comment. The surviving bike sold for $231,562 in 2021. When Bud Ekins sold it to Marshall Ehlers sometime in the early 1990s, he didn't say what it was. He sold a motorcycle. A good one. Rare engine, clean bones, worth having. He just didn't mention the other part. Ekins knew what the bike had been. He'd built it. He'd rented it to the production for 10 years. He'd watched the character it helped create become one of the most merchandised figures in television history. He knew. He sold it anyway. For what it was, not what it had become. Nobody required him to do that. He could have held it, He could have traded on it. He chose not to. And for nearly a decade, the most famous motorcycle in American television sat in a working shop in Oakland next to used parts and tools and machines nobody had finished fixing yet. Not hidden, not lost, just not famous. Most things don't get chosen. Most things don't get remembered. Most things that carry weight don't know they're carrying it yet when the weight is being put on them. Someone has to look back. Wendy Black looked. Marshall held it long enough to be found. Bud Ekins built it right the first time, which is why it was still worth finding. The other two are still out there somewhere, or they aren't. Nobody knows.